Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? I hope the answer was doing all right, Jerry. Doing all right. How are you? I'm glad you asked. I'm fine, actually. Fine. I'm fine, not bad, not stressed, which is nice because I haven't always been able to say that. But why I'm making a video, number one, is because I had posted that I was going to be making videos and posting them again on Jeremiah Lee McGillicuddy. And the last time I did it, I did not follow through. And for that, if you checked in, which I think a few of my friends did, I apologize. I do. I apologize. Please don't think I was being lazy. I get hung up on um, what I'm talking about. The content. I get hung up on, and I'll tell you why. It's not that I don't have any fresh ideas. I have an infinite amount of fresh ideas. I'm using the word fresh. I didn't say good. I think a few of them are good. And when I speak now, I speak from the heart. I speak very directly and I speak very truthfully. So if I say a couple of them are good, I've mentally run them through, a lot of them to the end, because I even see the end. I see when a show or a project or something is going to naturally end. Natural stopping point, we call it. And some of them I just have the basic startup, and some of them are just a concept, as a million people do. I'm not special, and that's a huge concept. I'm not grappling with it. It's actually quite refreshing. Some of you may have noticed that I finally gave myself a crew cut. I've had the small, I've had the little cutesy boy thing up front, I've had the long Jesus hair, I've had the what's it called, the ducktail. Anyway, and a few months ago I was shaving it down and down and down, and I finally said, Jerry, just bite the bullet and shave it all off. Which sounds so stupid. It's like, just do it. Why are you overthinking it? Well, vanity was still around, and I didn't know that. I didn't know what it was that was stopping me. But it's vanity. It's selfishness. Oh, I don't want to look like everybody else, like Joe Public. But I shaved it off, and a minute later, I'm looking in the mirror right behind me. You see that mirror? It was like Brad Pitt said to the kid standing at the front door in Fight Club. Slap! Ready to go off to the moon! It was... I'm officially average. Which is great. I don't have to ever think about if people are looking at my hair and judging me. Which, side note, they do now in a negative way. It's very funny. I dress business casual all the time. My friend Danny Spolkin called out this kid that was trying to come into the bar one day. We were both at the front door, cask and flag. I was the head of security. He was my right-hand man. This kid came up and something was wrong with his ID, but blah, blah, blah. We sent him away, and after he left, he turns to me and goes, kid, he's got no business going to the bar. He has no idea what he's doing. He's not even wearing a collared shirt. Now, half of the idiots down at Fenway are wearing tank tops. I mean, we're lucky if they have a shirt on. I've given people shirts, like the kitchen work shirts, because after a conversation, I feel that they're actually a normal person, but they're wearing a crop top or a half, not that, but something. That story was actually L.A. I didn't have to. Kid walked up. I was the doorman at Fireflies out in the valley, Jeffrey Best's place. And kid walked up, super cool, but he had a tank top on, and they just didn't allow it. So I said, would you be cool wearing one of the chef's shirts? It's a black button-up shirt, it's a little scratchy, but it's then I can let you in, and I want to let you in. And he's like, hesitation, you know, he's awkward. He's like, yeah, let's check it out. I run in, because the manager's there. Charlie was there, because I had asked him, and he's like, you know, I'm going to be on camera, and Jeffrey might see it and be like, you know, what's going on at the door? Long and short, come back out, put the shirt on him. I mean, it's huge. The kid was a skinny, like, he's a hipster kid. He was like a dress on him, but he was totally cool with it. He's like, whatever, man, as long as I can get in and hang out with my friends. I'm like, dude, you're the best. Your attitude is great. That's fantastic. Because we all know, you know, that looks a little bit weird, but hey, it's a story for tomorrow, right? So Daniel, back to Boston, Daniel turns to me and goes, he's not even wearing a collared shirt. And I double took it. I was like, he's kidding, right? Like he's just making fun of the kid. And I was like, hey, I'm not calling you out. Like I agree with you because that's how I was brought up as well. But are you being serious with the collared shirt? He goes, yeah. That's another reason that I respect the hell out of you, Danny, and I trust you. I trust Danny Sabulkin, I'm calling this out right now, with my life, with my private information, and really that's the best of it, with my family, with my friends, and I only met him as a work guy a couple of years back. He is the most sincere and trustworthy person I think I have ever met in recent history, post-LA. My life is broken up into pre-LA, which is all of school and high school, into Charles Street, working with the Spagnolos at Pontificio, which was crazy years, on to selling cars of all things up at Bernardi. This is going to factor in the multiple random various jobs in a minute. And then in '98, after talking about it for I don't even know how long, at least 4 years, knowing full well that people are getting sick of hearing it, they're like, bite the bullet or shut up about it, I drove out to California. And Matt Goodman, another West Newton kid, great friend, put me up, didn't ask for a dime, over in West Hollywood. Great place, great guy. I love you. Goody, Matt Goodman was one of our boys from West Newton. Like he was like family. I stayed with him only a month because it was my first time, and I don't think a lot of people knew this. When I moved to LA, that was my first time out of the family house, out of where I grew up. I'm 24 years old. I hadn't had an apartment with a bunch of my friends. I didn't rent a room from somebody. I hadn't done that stuff that most people do. I didn't have to. Living at my house was, Mom was always at work, and I had the freedom of everything, and I was working. I had my own car, so why move out? So I moved straight to the craziest place in America, Hollywood. But I meant to. I was, this goes back to the vanity. I was told, pre-LA, by so many people, this isn't me saying, oh my, so many people, randomly, so many people, and guys, like my girlfriend's fathers are like, wow, dude, if I looked like you, I'd be in Hollywood right now. And who said that? That was Paul DiBenedetto, Trish and Chris's dad. And he'd say it every time. And other people said it. It wasn't just one person. And then I had the connection, and I knew I was spinning my wheels in Boston, and I didn't really have any kind of profession. So everyone's like, oh, go out and try and be an actor. I had no business. I had no background. I wasn't in the theater club in high school. I wasn't even in high school. I'm lucky I graduated. I have a high IQ, and I ended up in remedial classes because I was never there. Nowadays, I look back and I go, I think I was right about that, because we're realizing that nothing they teach you in public school is actually true. I'm not going to get into that right now. That's for another video. We all have heard that by now, though, and if you haven't, well, that's what's going around. People are saying, wait a minute. Not only was it not true, but we were lied to as students by the people that we looked up to as our authorities, as our teachers, literally and figuratively. Anyway, so I moved to LA, had a great time. Didn't know what I was going to do for a job, so I had worked doing as a barista back in Boston, up at Chestnut Hill and other places at cafes. So in my neighborhood, I actually lived one street up from Hollywood Boulevard, so I was right by the action. In a little studio apartment, it's $435 a month. $435 a month. Location, location, location. If I walked out my door and walked up a block, which you'd have to walk over a bridge over the 101, you would pass the Scientology Celebrity Center, which everybody's heard of a million times. And then you would walk down a block, which had a few bars and a small theater. Had like a used, like, kick-ass, like, record store and tape store. Down the end was the Bourgeois Pig, for people that know the area, which had like fun little knickknacks and trinkets and that kind of stuff, like cool paper with, I'm not even going to get into it, but next to that was a dank and funky, it was like CBGB's, but it was a coffee shop. I'm forgetting the name of that. And next to that was Birds, which was named after the Alfred Hitchcock movie Birds. Mary ran it. She was an old school Hollywood fake top convertible 69 Camaro driving awesome woman. And I remember Lori was behind the bar. Lori was actually from Fall River, which is funny. Jeff was back there. A bunch of guys. That was our watering hole. Back to in my neighborhood. So if you went down, you'd cross over Sunset Boulevard. No, Hollywood Boulevard. We're going just straight south. Hollywood is a grid system. LA is a grid system, like most of the country, except for Boston, which are cow paths. So if you just go south, due south on Gower, which is a well-known street, Gower Gulch. Gower goes to Gower Studios, which is where Oprah has her company, and they shot everything down there. I mean, they shot Judge Judy, they shoot the news, KTLA, Mega Studios, Gower Studios, and right across the street from Gower Studios. So, across Hollywood, across Sunset, across Santa Monica Boulevard. No, across Hollywood, across Sunset. You're at Sunset, on the corner of Sunset and Gower. On the southwest is Gower Gulch, which is just a strip mall. And on the very first hole, there is Starbucks. So, strolled in there, song and dance. One of the creepy managers, Dodie, I think. She literally looked like a witch, like the makeup and the nose. I could picture the broom in the... But she thought I was cute, and she hired me. And that's what I was told by Debbie, a friend I met there and worked with there, Debbie King. Love you, Debbie, if you see this ever. I met Stacy Hogue there, which will bring Stacy up again. And a lot of people. Turned out to be the busiest Starbucks in the region, because it was right across from the studios. And we were doing like 20 coffees in trays in paper bags. Crazy. And it was a small store. Like, behind the counter was super tiny. So I worked there for 8 months or something. During that time, I was getting my face out there to the obvious places, and there was one casting house that just had people standing outside of it with clipboards. As you were, you know what? Let me reverse that. So I went in to get my digital picture taken, give them my information, and they were supposedly like kind of my digital agents. If they found anything, if anybody called for my type, they would get in touch with me. And on my landline, 461-4647, 323, baby. 323 is very important. So is 90028. So is 1756 Tamarind Avenue, apartment 9. Because Ozzy's daughter ended up having a friend that lived there, which was my original apartment. That apartment I'm talking about. This was when Jack and Kelly? Oh, Ozzy's daughter, whatever her name is, were coming up. It's before the, or maybe it was, the reality show. Anyway, put my face in, blah, 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 leave that casting place out in the valley, and as you walk out, there's a bunch of people with clipboards, and I was curious. I'm like, because right now I'm putting my face out there. I was told, do everything. Just get your face out there everywhere. Get yourself an agent, which worked because there was a SAG strike, and I could be a scab. Agents were looking for new faces because they couldn't send their union actors, SAG and AFTRA, to auditions because there was a strike. So that's how I got in a real agency. But clipboard people, they were actually signing people up for different shows, new pilots. One was The Love Connection. One was the first one where you and your girlfriend go on a date with different people and see if you want to break up. That was weird. And then the other one was the dating game. Then I went home, and they all called me. But mind you, I was still working at Starbucks, making $290 a week or something stupid. Tips might have got me to $320. And I had my '87 Honda CRX, which is a two-seater. It's like a golf cart with a roof. I drove that all the way across the country. It's Al Manoogian's old car, one of them. So I'm not going on a date in that. This is just me, and I don't have any money. Like, they would have paid for the date, but like I don't have any clean, like not clean, but like cool clothes, or like I'm not going out on a date. Like, if we go to the studio and shoot something, that's what I'm looking for. So the only one that did that was the dating game. Now I'm going, the dating game. Isn't that the one with Chuck Woolery? They're like, yeah. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, I didn't know he was back. I knew he left a decade prior. Mind you, this is 1998, the end of 98. So I ended up being bachelor number 3 on the dating game. Back in 2 and 2. And he called me Jeremy, which made me cringe, but I'm not going to correct Chuck Woolery because he's Chuck Woolery. Like my man, Chuck Woolery. During that shoot, I actually met one of the production assistants. And yak. I'm only working at Starbucks. I'm not making much money. I want to get into the business. He goes, oh, you should be a PA. And I'm like, what's a PA? He's like, oh, production assistant. I'm like, what do they do? He's like, you just run around, pick stuff up. You go to the store. You do stuff in the office. You're an office assistant. I said, that's cool. What do they pay? He's like, I don't know, $100 a day. Sign me up. How do I do that? What's going on? He goes, I'll ask my friend Kathy, see if she got anything for you. She's the one that got me into this. And I don't know, I forget what show he was working on, but it was another one on the studio lot. Probably met him in the parking lot or something. I don't know. So a couple of weeks later, or a week later, he gives me a call, and he says, hey, call this number. This is Kathy's number. I told her about you, and just make the introduction and see what goes on. So I called Kathy, and she said, oh my God, I'd love to meet you. He speaks you. I forget his name, and I'm actually not saying his name because he ended up being in trouble. So I'm not giving him a shout out. He'll never see this, I know, but in my mind, I don't want to, because this is forever videos, remember. She goes, hey, I actually have a job coming up where I need some PAs. Are you available? And I said, well, when do you need me? And she's like, oh, every day. I said, how long? She's like, oh, all day. I'm like, in my mind, I'm going, how do I work this around my Starbucks schedule? Because I don't want to lose the job that I know I have. A bird in the hand, remember? But this is an opportunity. I didn't come to Hollywood to work at Starbucks, right? So I go meet her. We make nice. She says, okay, we're going to start up next week. So I'll see you on Monday, Tuesday, whatever. I'm like, okay. So I dusted Starbucks. Let's get to it. I just dusted them. There was no call. There was no, hey, you know what? Something came up. I just, bye-bye. Because they're Starbucks. Come on. And this is a TV show. We're not, it's apples to maggots. And come on. So that was being shot over at the Sony studios, which are over in Oak. Nope. Center. Nope. It'll come to me as I talk. Sony Studios for a gentleman named Scott Sternberg. Now, Scott Sternberg is the executive producer on the Gong Show Live and other things. That's not the show we were doing. We were putting together a show called The Great Pretenders, which was a Fox Family show, which was families coming up and lip syncing their favorite songs, like "Play That Funky Music, White Boy." So it was a contestant show, you know. Whoever gets the best or most votes wins stuff. I mean, we had bought, as the PA, I had gone and picked up 20 TVs, and many other things as little prizes. That was awesome. That was absolutely awesome. Scott was awesome, and I'm going to bring his name up more and more because his name came back around just 6 months ago or something. Random. His name came up with Lori Solomon's name. So for my high school friends who are seeing this, they're going, huh? Just like I did. Huh? Now, most of you probably know that she has knocked it out of the park in New York doing The Real Housewives of New York or Jersey or Manhattan. I don't even know. I don't follow TV. I'm addicted to the ghost hunting shows and these woods are haunted and that kind of stuff. My mind is there now. Reality TV and all that stuff, like, again, I worked in TV, so I can't be bothered with it. I made a great statement, and that sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but I didn't think about it before I said it. My friend Hassan let me know that he was like, yeah, dude. We were, this is later down the road when I was at AC. I was working on music videos and commercials a lot for 3 different production teams, not companies. Like I had first AC, which is assistant cameraman, that hired Hassan, and then Hassan hired me. There were 3 of them that we knew very well, so we were always kind of working. And one morning we were on set, and we were at the back end of one of our camera trucks, we were probably filling up our dollies and racks, and doing a little small talk. Hassan was next to me, and I was there, and this kind of newbie comes up. I don't know what department he was in. He starts talking about TV, and, oh, do you follow this? And I turned to him, I was like, dude, I'm too busy making this shit to watch it. And went back to work. And it was true. It was true. I was more kind of like, dude, I'm exhausted. Like, shut up. But Hassan goes, dude, that's why I hired you and bring you on. I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. I'm not looking to be a bum like everyone. To be a unfortunately brainwashed clone. I am guilty of watching those shows, like I just mentioned, for a whole day. So I'm not special, I'm not better, I'm the same. But we were making my second job. Let me back up. Okay. So work on Great Pretenders, learned a lot of stuff because I had no background in television production. At one point, like the first day, I had met Scott, and we were in a sound stage, and it was all built up, and there were stand-ins everywhere, and we were trying to block for the show when the real people came the next day or the next week. And he goes, Jerry, go up to such and such place and just stand in when you stand in up there. So I go up, and the person that was supposed to be there is going to be singing something. So when the music started playing, I started, I don't know the song, I'm kind of lip syncing. They have a camera on me, and Scott's watching it, as you would a director, and I hear laughter over in the corner. And I finish doing my thing, song stops, and I come down. They're all like, stand-ins don't dance around and lip sync. They just stand there so there's a body so the camera can. I was like, oh my God. Wow. And looking like a fool. But you take the hit, you know. Whatever. I was young and dumb and empty of because, wow, Hollywood. So, I'll explain more about that show in another video. I'm running off at the mouth on this one. I'm getting to a point for just this video. My point being, take this with a grain of salt because I say this humbly and in a kind of lost, ungrounded way. I'm not working in production right now. I know if I did the legwork, put some time in, told people where I've been and what I've done, I could get a job in production, making real money. Working in a normal job, any normal job, you're not going to make good money. You're not even going to make over $25 an hour. And if you're new, they're going to slap you in the face and say, okay, we'll start you out at 17, 18. How about we'll give you $18 an hour? And I'm looking at them like, you think I'm excited about that? You've got to work 40 hours to make, let's say, $500. I mean, a week. I'm used to $2,500 a week. Or at least I was on this old house. That was a lot of hours. But my rate, the minute I stepped on the lot, was $400 for 10. 2 hours past that, you're in overtime. 2 hours past that, you're in double time. 2 hours past that, you're in something known as golden time. I don't think I have to explain why it's known as golden time. Golden time has given me a few $1,000 days. Those are out in LA, but that's the mecca of media. I was on a Hanson Brothers shoot out in Malibu, of all things, which was great. Working in television production with a crew, with it's family. Even if there's 200 people involved, which a lot of times there are, which you see when you finally get to lunch, catering under the tents where they put up all the tables. That's a lot of people around. I didn't even realize it. Because you're in your mind. I have an earbud in. We're wearing all black. You never go outside of your department. You never even talk to somebody that's above your immediate supervisor. Unless, of course, they're not around right now and you absolutely need them. But after a couple of shoots or projects, you start seeing the same people. The same people in the electric department, same people in the gapper, same people in the transpo, you know. So, you know, before you're working, when you're just driving in, you're setting up, or after you wrap, you hang out with these people and you realize we're all in the same boat. And this is awesome. We're making money. We want to stay making money. We're going to watch each other's ass, and we're going to, you know, make sure that we all do our best so we get called again. Because in television production or film or whatever, you don't get fired. Maybe you get fired, but it's hard to do because the producer's trying not to make some psychotic person who wants to badmouth them, or God forbid. So they let you work the rest of the day or the show, and then they make up some excuse that they don't need you to come in tomorrow or tomorrow or tomorrow, or they make up some excuse. Oh, hey, you know what? Those keys we gave you for the office, the associate producer lost her set. Can you give her your keys and we'll get you a new set? And then the next day, they call you and say, you know what? We no longer need your services. The executive producer wants to go a different way. So, you know. Or you just never get called back again. When you don't hear the phone ring after a month, yeah, you've done something wrong. So, I work the Great Pretenders. The Great Pretenders gets me to work on a show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? Which we're all aware of. Drew Carey, all the boys, Greg Proops, Ryan Stiles, Wayne Brady. I'm forgetting a few, but you know. And I worked on that for 6 months, we'll say. Went on hiatus, came back, and I had been butting heads with the coordinator. Again, I'm just a production assistant. I'm the lowest man on the totem pole, but happy to be there. And she falsely accused me of something. None of that flies in production. If there's any question about someone being a problem, yeah, you're gone. You are just gone. That day, that minute, you're gone. And my immediate supervisor told me why. He actually asked me, check this out. So the coordinator has an envelope of petty cash. It's what sounds like it's like a slush fund. It's probably $1,000, could be $2,000. It's not a lot of money. It's to go buy coffee, as if talent or producers ask. It's to go buy fruit for the office. It's to, you know, petty cash. And she had an envelope of $500. Mindy Cote, I'll call her out, C-O-T-E, Mindy Cote. She had a boyfriend who was exactly as much of a loser as she is. And I'm not being childish now. It was crazy. They had no business in production. And I'm not hurt about that. I mean, let me get to what happened after it. So she somehow says that I stole it over the weekend because the associate producer, Eric, had given me the responsibility of, or the, okay, he told security that I was the one guy other than him that could ask them to open the elephant door, which is the mega door next to the, that gets you into the sound stage. You know, as tall as the building, 80 feet tall, and, well, I don't know, 40 feet tall and 60 feet wide, just mega. Which is, it was pretty cool that he let me do that. So I had keys, I had all kinds of stuff. So during the weekend, I guess I could have come in, but there's cameras in the hallway. You got to sign in at the front gate. Like, it just wouldn't make sense. But for $500, now if it was $5,000, I might be winking at you right now. But you wouldn't do that because you get blacklisted. And again, or not again, I haven't said this yet. My name is McGillicuddy. It's not Jones, it's not Smith. It's, oh, you can't see it. It's, yeah, McGillicuddy. Spider Cub. I finally got a good one. And this I learned from being in the camera department. You always have a knife on you. It's a tool. It's not a weapon. Which is fun. You get to buy cool knives and you know, make excuses why. I mean, it's not a $20 knife. That thing is $130. Back in Hollywood, we were talking about buying the the stone ones. Those are like $200 or $300. You know what I'm talking about? Not stone, but it's porcelain, sharp as a. But they break. They used to. Again, early 2000s. They may be great now. They may have heat treated them better. So I get let go. Imagine that. I get accused of stealing something. The producer heard about it, and he just looks up and goes, "Get rid of him right now." Like I said, gone. And I understood. I was like, "Wow, if you guys think I stole money, I'll leave quickly. This is horrible. This is horrible. I don't want to be involved with it anymore. I might even offer to just pay it back from nothing." But and everybody else knew I didn't steal it. It was just a move. And she wins. But the producer, Rick Pizzanti, no, he was on Great Pretenders. Somebody said, "Hey," or they called me. Somebody got in touch with me and said, "Hey, we heard what happened. It's terrible. We feel like hell. Listen, we know somebody who's hiring. We can't tell you what the show is right now, but if you go meet them and it works out, you'll have another job." And I'm like, "Sweet, that's awesome. When do I meet them and where?" She goes, "Go to Beverly Hills, go to this address, and ask for a girl named Jen." And I said, "All right, that sounds great." Drive my little '87 CRX to Beverly Hills, find a spot, knock on the door. Big security comes to the door. I'm like, hello. I was actually asked to be here. My name is Jerry McGillicuddy. You're like, all right, look at my list. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, come on in. Give me a second. I'm going to go get Jen. Comes back 2 minutes later with Jen Smilky behind him. Now, I had met Jen Smilky, not Milky, S, Smilky, sometime a month or two previous to that in Don Mischer's office. Don Mischer is a mega executive producer. You can look him up. I'm not going to bore you with it, but I think I had been going over there because of The Great Pretenders. I think there may have been something. The production is all together, and Jennifer Smilky had been there just covering the phones during the weekend, and maybe this was Friday. Who knows? And I had sat down because I'm a PA. I'm not in a rush. I had taken care of whatever I needed to take care of in the office with whomever. I'd given them what I had, or I had picked up what. So I sat there for a minute and I started talking to her. Didn't know her then, and we totally hit it off. She's wonderful. She's a bubbly, smart, happy, savvy person, and she was trying to get into production as well. So they asked her to sit and watch the phones. She says, "Hell yeah, thank you." So now, I walk in, we already have a rapport. We already love each other. I mean, we just met once, but we're cool. She goes, oh my God, it's you. Oh, you're hired. Come on in. Bang. That's how I used to get jobs. There's no application. I have never put in a resume. I have tried to make them on the quick and with templates and all this and all that, but I never needed to back then. I haven't put one in now, but that's what I'm getting to with this video, and I see it's almost 40 minutes long, so I'm going to get to my point. It is strange when you get so old that people don't look at you like, oh, we just want him around the office because he's good looking and funny. Now they're like, why are you just looking for a job when you're 48 years old? Why don't you have a professional resume? Why? I'm like, well, I've been working freelance for 20 years. And when you work freelance, you don't have time to put out things to new and strange people. You call your circle. You call anybody you know. Hey, what's going on? Job working? Blah, 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 blah. So, and the show Jen was the coordinator on happened to be the Oscars. So I got fired from a little dinky show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? And wound up on the Oscars. And that very next spring, I was standing on the red carpet in a tuxedo that they rented for me, almost knocking over Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Wow! They were talking to somebody in the press. Red carpet's a big rectangle. This is when we were still at the Shrine Auditorium, downtown LA, not when we were up at Kodak Theaters. So it was 99. And that I worked that show for at least 2 months. Might have been 3 months, because we're the production office. We are the people that cross the T's and dot the I's. We are the people that are in charge of the money. Television, film production was created to keep sums of money in a particular circle. That's it. Yes, they were made for commercials later, but that's the same thing. You take a certain amount of money, the executive producer finds. That's what the executive producer does. That's why he's or she's the executive producer. They know investors. They bring the money in. Or people looking for commercial time or commercial interest. Either way, the financing, the money. And the production team figures out how to make a show out of it, with it, and account for every dime. Production people are the nerds. The production people are the people that didn't get laid in high school. I didn't just say that. Some of them are. And talent this is what I thought a long time ago. Again, I'm 48 now. I probably thought that when I was 25, 26. So please let it slide. Again, I was a single dude in Hollywood with my own apartment working television production. You know what that means. It was on. It was on. Not only do I work in television, I work for the Oscars. Which means I work for the Grammys. Which means I work for the Emmys. Because it's the same production company. Louis J. Horvitz. LJH. Love that guy. And if he ever sees this, this is my point. No more tires off boxcars. No more tires off boxcars, please. Much. All gratitude and respect, Louis J. I call them the Three Kings. I just brought up Don Mischer. Now I brought up Louis J. Horvitz. Not Horowitz, it's Horvitz. And the third, but they're all equal, is Michael Seligman. S-L-E-I-G, Selig, M-A-N, Seligman, for a long time. They are the ones that are in charge of the Oscars and have been since probably 1960-something. Because they have, you know, for months you're in the office and old photos come out, old photo books with like tuxedos with the frills and stuff of the Oscars every year as it went along. For the engineers and for the people setting up the actual carpet and camera areas to see what they've done in the past so they don't redo something or see what they like. Critical show files, I think they're called. So I'm working the Oscars for months, so I'm making a great check. I'm hanging out with top quality people. And I always go straight for the boss and make friends with the boss, not the manager, not the, well, it could be the executive assistant of the boss, but the boss. So I had a lot of great conversations with Louis J. And one day, one of his executive assistants that I just brought up, Deborah Reed, no, that's English. She actually comes from not Australia, but the other one. She goes, it's funny, I was just talking to Louis J. and he goes, that Jerry McGillicuddy kid, I like him. He reminds me of my cousin. You just never know which way he's going. That's to have a compliment from somebody who was a super poor Jewish kid in, I think he said, New York, taking tires off of boxcars back in the day because he had no work. He told me that story. He brought me in. He says, one day I just said, I can't do this anymore. He went back to school for television production, became a director. Voila, I'm in charge of the Oscars. Or I'm one of the people. AMPAS owns the Oscars, but the Association of Movie Picture Artists, something. Yes. AMPAS is the backing of the Oscars, but these guys have been running it since, again, the 60s, and this was 99, so that's 30 years. I mean, they know what they're doing. I'm sitting there shutting up and listening, but I wasn't yet. Still talking a lot, but I had to. You don't want to be a fly on the wall. You want people to know exactly who you are. That's when I say, McGillicuddy, so they just remember it, and they're like, oh, we need somebody? Why don't we just call McGillicuddy? Yes. Well, I haven't told you. Yes. Absolutely. Thank you for the call. All right, we'll see you on Monday. Monday comes. You're shoveling shit for the whole day. Okay. Am I making rain? Yep. Where's my shovel? Let's go. I'll slow down. So, worked the Oscars, Grammys, Emmys, Latin Grammys. We worked with Capitol Records, where I met Paula Salvatore, and she will come up again. She was, at that point, the general manager of Capitol Records, the saucer building that you see, which was 3 blocks from my apartment. Again, I lived 1 block off from Hollywood Boulevard, in Hollywood proper, by the studios. Capitol Records is on, I almost said Macoña. It's on, what's the name of the name crazy of the street? But anyway, Turns out she's from, she might be from Fall River. Lori might be from somewhere else in Boston, the bartender I brought up. But Paula was from Boston as well. She, a hot ticket. She was a good-looking woman, badass, in a badass position. And I'd go there to wait for something to be mixed or edited. Again, it's all audio. So don't just think of Capitol Records as studios where people record. It's also editing bays and all kinds of stuff. So I was there a lot. Cherimoya, not Jeremiah, Cherimoya, and what is the one that's just above Hollywood? It'll come to me. So she was awesome. We also worked with the guy, and I'm forgetting his name, that was in Devo. Whip it up! His office or his studios were right on Sunset Boulevard, just on the curb before the Laura scene. And just a ton of other people. So I'm working on the Oscars. There's more storage to this, but so I worked on the Oscars for 3 years, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, along with the others. Somewhere around, well, we won't get to that yet. But in between, because, you know, you work for 2 months, you shoot, you work for another month, breaking it down, tying up the loose ends. Again, that's what we do, paying off all the bills. So at that point, I'm just sitting in the office, and I was the assistant to the line producer, which made me really learn why I said it's just to keep the money in a circle. If you don't know, the line producer is exactly what it sounds like. There are lines in the accountant books, the books that have been made up with categories of plane fares, pay to producers, everything. There is a line or option in this book, you know, cooking the books or writing the books, making the books. He's over there. We had started with email. I mean, this is just before cell phones. We had beepers, but Bill Urban was his name. Awesome guy. Bill, you were right. I didn't want it then. I wasn't lazy, but I was definitely lackadaisical. Thank you for the opportunity, and I miss the family. I respect you. I do. I never disrespected you, but I was a bit of a dummy for the first part of LA. I learned the hard way. So he would make up all of the requests for Brown and Craft, which was our accounting house, which he would, you know, package, envelope, give to me. Jerry, go run over to Westwood, Brown and Craft. Okay. I'll drop these off in a couple of hours. They're going to call me back. They're going to say the checks are cut. So they print the checks for these people, of course, out of the bank account. Checks come back. Well, I go get the checks, bring them back to the office, hand them to Bill. Bill checks them off, makes sure they're all set, hands them to me, says make copies of every page of these, because that's what we do. We account for everything. So all of these copies are going to end up in bankers' boxes in some storage somewhere, because they will get audited, because the government wants their taxes. And the people that gave the money, whoever they really are, want to see that it was used properly and people didn't just stuff in their pockets. So that's the game. You need to spend all of the money to show whoever invested in it that you did actually need all of that money that you had asked for. And that's where you can say, and we could use a little bit more for next year because we have this plan and this plan. But everything worked out this year, and I think you're happy, so does that work for you? Yes, of course it does. As long as you keep making me money and keeping the money and keeping it on the level, we're good. So, and then he'd give me the stuff, make the copies, and I would actually fill in the handwritten book. He had files on his computer. I had literally a handwritten book. This much was spent on craft service. Find the department for, and if there wasn't a clear department for something that was spent, I would ask him, so where would you think I should file this? Because he's the boss, and he would say, well, stick it over here, you know, blah, blah, blah. The books It's crazy because I saw where every dime went, meaning I saw what everyone made. I mean, he was making $2,500 a week back then, but there were checks being cut for the executive producer. Different show, but I'll say Joel Gallen. I worked at 10th Planet for a while. Joel Gallen used to do, or still does, the halftime shows because he's friends with every musician. He started doing it way back in the 80s with U2 and Madonna and MTV era, and he did it right. So he's a king as well in LA, very well known. Joel Gallen, 10th Planet. Started the MTV Movie Awards, made the movie Teen Movie, the really disgusting one. Joel Gallen. That's all I'll say about him. He got me working for a while there, and it was great. I've actually got to run out of time. I'm so confused on what direction to go to make good money right now as a 48-year-old man with a crew cut and everything personally tight, like on the level, no hang-ups. I'm available to be somewhere at all times. I've done so much though, and such high caliber stuff that just getting some straight job is it's I have done it. Like I'm not meh, but really putting yourself in that, it will drive you nuts, and you're not making the money. So, putting this out there, if you have any ideas, like I want to make these videos, I actually just thought of a great idea. See, I'm used to, on the shore here, I worked for this old house when I got back from LA, because a friend got me the interview, and then they were like, oh, well, you worked in Hollywood for years. This is Boston, like you're kind of at least a medium-sized fish in a small pond. We'd love to have you on. And that was awesome. That was David Voss that hired me. David V-O-S. So this old house, I mean, I grew up on it too. Are you kidding me? That was family. I miss that so much. Worked on it for 5 years. I guess I was the longest running gaffer on the show. I didn't know. I was told by one of the other gaffers who had worked on it periodically. He's like, well, you lasted longer than anybody else. And I was like, I did? He goes, yeah, man, 5 years? It's a great run. I was like, oh, didn't know that. Awesome. And that's another selling point. You know what I mean? I could say that to a producer that I might be approaching, but Boston production, the Boston production world, it ain't Hollywood, baby. It ain't Hollywood, and I have found that out the hard way. Not against me. I haven't been looked at wrong or anything, and I'm not here to talk bad about anybody, but it's not like professional Hollywood. Hollywood, you were in a platoon, or you were in if you were in your department, and you were on walkie, and you were ninjas, because you're not supposed to be seen. You're just supposed to take care of what you do. Like I was the loader as I came in, which is literally the guy that loads the film into the magazines to be put on the back of the cameras to be shot. Then when it's all shot, I hear camera one reload, and I zip up to camera one. Hopefully I have left a box of fresh magazines there, so the second AC can just look down and go, we have fresh ones, and he'll put the shot one in. They're all marked. That's the whole thing. Tape and pens marked. So I run up and I grab that one, and I run to my dark room, which is like a little TARDIS, just a box in the corner of the soundstage somewhere. If we're outside, it will be just behind the cab in a box truck. That's why you call them camera trucks, because they have very specific builds inside, like shelves where you can put the road cases and electrical hookups, and then I jump up with my spent roll, and I run into the dark room, shut it behind me, wait for a second, let my eyes adjust, make sure there's no light seeping in. there's like 2 inches of black gaff tape around the door because people had done that. And I turn around. I'm not going to turn around on you, but we'll figure it. Turn around. And there's one little, this is like a 4x4 box. And it's hot. It's hot. You're sweating. And moisture doesn't help tape adhesion. And tape is your lifeline here. Because, again, you shut your eyes just because it will throw you off having your eyes open. You'll think you're seeing light. You'll think you're seeing light or something. And you unhook the spool, take it out from this side, make sure it's wrapped tight, put it in a light-proof bag, fold the bag over, put it in a can that it would have come from, film canisters you've seen. Put the can down, grab my tape, which I have always keep in a very same place. There's scissors right here, always Fiskars. And I grab my 1-inch, yellow or red depending, and I start wrapping the can, making sure it's never going to open up. And then check it. Then I've got a fresh roll over here. Well, actually, I take that off and I put that somewhere safe. 2 feet by 2 feet. And I've got a fresh roll probably up on my left, which is still in the can. I open up the can. I open up the bag that it's in, the light-proof bag. It has a core to it, which I find in the magazine. It's still open from the thing I just took out, from the load I just took out. Place it in, make sure it clicks. Pull out some of the film. And this is the crazy part. Feed it through the gears, which are at the bottom. So there's 2 sides. There's the load and then there's the take-up side. And in the middle of it, down the bottom, there are some gears that feed the film through into the camera. So you have to pull some of the film. This is inside the mag. And thread it properly through those gears. Pull it out. And as you pull it out, you hold it against the round side of the mag to the top of the mag where there is the metal bumps out a little bit so you can feel it. You're measuring what's called the loop, because the loop goes through the gears of the camera. It's not just one smooth thing. There's like gears and all kinds of crazy stuff. So you need about that much. It's about the size of a fist. If you can put your fist in it but just not quite get it through, you've got a good loop. If it's too big and you go, it's too big, you've got to back it out. This is all blind. You're sweating your ass off, and in your ear you hear, camera 2 reload, camera 3 reload. And you know you've got a couple of freshies there, so they're okay. I'm not stopping the Madonna video. but when I get out, I am going to be running. And you thread it, bang, and then you've got your loop, and then you keep it in a loop, a circle, and you thread it back into those gears because there's an entrance. And then you pull it around to the right side, which is the pickup side, and you have one of those empty spools, because you have them, the plastic ones. You thread it into that in a crazy way. I'll fold it over, put it down, tighten it up, crank it a little bit, close the lever, click it shut, make sure your loop is good. Grab another roll of tape, which is different. Start at the bottom left side, tape all around it. Make sure that's tight as hell. Make sure it's never going to open up, because some lazy people have done that, not checked. People go to pick the mag out of the box to put it on the camera. As they're doing this, the lid opens up, and the effing roll of film falls out and goes zzz, in front of the entire production. Producers, director, talent. And you just stand there. Oh, that hasn't happened to me, but I did flash a roll of 400 one time. I was in the dark room in a truck. And I think I had it on the left side. It wasn't finished yet. For some reason, someone opened, or I opened the door, or maybe they knocked, and I said, yeah, it's good. They opened the door, and I thought, oh no! And I looked down. It starts in the middle and goes, film is black, right? Goes green, like that, in that time. Zip! And I'm like, oh. It's called flashing a roll. which is expensive because that roll is not $8.99. I don't know how much the roll is, but it's a couple $100. You're allowed one of those. You get a mulligan. You immediately tell your first AC, he's the head of the department, because he now has to go to the production team and say, just so you know, we flashed a roll of film, because they need to know the count, because they've given you a certain amount of film that they think is going to cover the entire shoot. And if you start burning rolls or flashing rolls, wasting rolls, you might end up at the very last night up in Malibu, up in the hills at 10 o'clock without another load of 400 film to shoot the last 5 minutes of the video. You might end up randomly with a 1,000-foot load, which you joked around about with your first AC yesterday when you received all of the film from the production. They give it to you in the morning, or it's in the trailer or the RV. Good morning, I'm Jerry McGillicuddy, I'm your loader today. Jerry, how are you? Film's over there. I count 20 rolls, 400. 20 rolls, 400. Thank you. I have a little book in my hand. Lifesaver. And 2 rolls of 1,000. I was like, you don't question them. They know what they're doing. But I get to my camera department. I'm like, so we have 20 rolls of 400, maybe 16, and 2 rolls of 1,000. Jason looks at me and goes, Jason Walrow. Love Jason. First AC. He goes, Jerry. I said, yes. He goes, in the equipment, do we have magazines for 1,000-foot loads? And I said, no, sir, we do not. And he said, okay. So we've got 2 random 1,000-foot loads that we can't use. Okay. Thank you. Do your thing. Yep. So I start making fresh magazines, and load up the boxes. The boxes have 3 slots for 3 fresh magazines. You place them by the cameras. 1, 2, 3. So they always have backup. Because, we'll get to that loop thing. I'm talking too much now, but that's my whole thing. The loop thing. Now, I always had great loops. There's not a perfect loop, but great loops. Until we worked with this one random DP, director of photography. And I kept hearing, Jerry, come to where we're set up right now, because I'm always hustling around doing stuff around the set. And I came over and I'm like, what's up? And DP hands me the magazine. He goes, looks like you've got loopitis. Rethread it. Now, loopitis means your loop is either too big, and when it goes through the camera, it's going to jam up, which is a big problem. That's what Hassan takes care of if that happens. Or it's too small, which means when we start running, it might snap. Again, in the camera. Not good. You don't want pieces of film in the camera. That's why we all carry air around with us. Always have a flashlight. Always have a knife. Always have air. If you have that, and you have like a Leatherman or something, so you have to. We had much more, but that's what you have to have. So the guy kept sending them back, and I was getting pissed. And Hassan was looking at me like, I know, and he whispered in my ear, he's like, I think he's just trying to make it look like he's, smart or something like that. And I was like, thank you, because I have never had a mag come back to me. Ever in my 2 years of being a loader. But that's a lot. Madonna. Okay, first thing I did, don't remember. Second job I did, ever, as a loader, was a Madonna video. Excuse me. A Madonna video shot in Hollywood Studios in downtown LA. There's a lot of Hollywood Center Studios. I think it's Hollywood Center Studios. Anyway, they took our cell phones away first day. I'm like, oh, okay, big time. 15 minutes after we show up, production meeting. And we all come together, and I'm talking to Hassan, and I'm backing up, and he grabs me by the shirt, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he goes, go over there, and I turn around, and I almost literally backed Madonna right off of her feet. So see, he saved my ass. She's tiny. It's a little bit of a thing. I had no idea. But she was great. Music video was called American Life. It never was put out. We shot for 3 days. We shot 60,000 feet of film. 3 cameras and a B camera unit. So four cameras all day. My second job. 60,000 feet of film. And they were shooting high speed, which slows things down on a lot of cameras. So all I heard all day was camera 1 reload, camera 2 reload, camera 3 reload, camera 1 outside, camera all day. Boy, I was hustling. But at the end of it, we made it happen. We made it happen. And then we hear that it was never released, so it was all for naught. But I mean, I probably made $2-3 grand over, probably $2 grand over 3 days, and cut my teeth. Like, showed my friends and my crew guys that I got you. I can do this. We can handle this. Mega stressed. I'll talk more about it if somebody wants to ask. But wow, because you've got a producer checking in with you every once in a while, because that's their job, checking on the film count and making sure that I'm okay, like everything is working out smoothly. She has to check with everybody. I'm not special, but I'm in charge of the babies, I call them. No film, no show. So you may be the low man on the totem pole in the AC, in the camera department, but super important. I mean, I've met slackers where I've been the second AC and we've had a loader on, and they're like just aloof, like, yeah, whatever, no running. Like, I used to run through sets, and people knew it, and it wasn't craziness. It was, you know, not running like, oh, save my life, the bomb, but you know, like football, like, because I've got a magazine here, maybe cases, but usually just a magazine here, and I still don't know what's called Beyond for the Whistling, but everybody else understood what it was. I mean, most of the guys are Latino. We're in Hollywood. Camera guys are always French. Still, ça va, très bien, ouais, c'est not oui, ouais. Vincent Foyer, he was Hassan's friend. He was always the first AC. He hired me a lot, but didn't want to. But Hassan always said, if Jerry screws up or gets behind, I can cover it. Which he did a few times, which is great, because he knows it. If you're a second AC, you were a loader at one point. You've just moved up, so he can do my job. A lot of the time, the production team crew didn't hire a loader. They just had the second AC, because they didn't want to pay for him. But we started working Hassan was already in it. We worked some really big stuff, like Madonna. She's gonna, okay, get a loader. What else do you need? The PA for the loader? Maybe a masseuse? Buckets of money. So I'd been flown all over the place and shot some really weird stuff, but it was fun as hell, man. It was fun as hell. And now I can say I'm a professional cameraman in Hollywood. So that's where I learned, on the fly, in the fire, in Hollywood, California, with some of the biggest stuff ever. I mean, I've been to the Playboy Mansion. I've been to everywhere you talk about. I got into the camera department after I was on the red carpet. So it was more like, oh, we're making this stuff and hopefully get the Oscars. And I'm like, I used to go pick up the Oscars, the statues, and bring them to the place and like hang out, and because it's just a show. It's just a show. You know, big actors don't go to the governor's ball after the Oscars. They go home, or they go to the real parties. The governor's ball, it's an empty, but the big setup, giant ballroom. You know, silver chairs, silver tables, crystal everywhere, and blah, blah, blah. Because I finally, in my third year, 2002, the people that had the tickets knew me. They knew I was a good worker and a good guy. I was going to F anything up if I went over to the governor's ball. And she gave me tickets. She's like, when you're done with your work, just slide over. And I was like, that's huge. Thank you. Because I didn't know. I went over to the governor's ball. The place was a ghost town. I mean, there was a couple of stragglers here and there. No faces. My immediate boss and then the engineer were sitting at a table with a bunch of beers in front of them, so I saddled over there and sat down and had a few Heinekens. By then it was hour 24. I'm still in my tuxedo. I go outside. We had a hotel room in the same parking lot, but another PA had 2 girl PAs in there cheating on his wife. I wanted no part of it. I got in my car. I was living in downtown LA at this point. So this is the Shriners Auditorium, which is in downtown LA. Downtown LA is huge. But it's a 10-minute drive to my house. So I start driving to my house, which is in a shady area. We lived in one of those old buildings where Jack Kerouac's train tracks were right behind us, where the Union Pacific goes. right by the huge train yard, not train tracks, train yard, in very specifically downtown LA. But we had a huge loft. We had a 5,000-foot loft, motorcycle hanging from the ceiling, like giant chocolate chip cookie in the kitchen area, and 3 14-foot couches around the giant TV, just space everywhere. My bed was jacked up. Somebody had built it up and put curtains around it. Not even a real room, but it was just awesome. We had a loading dock door as well as another door you could walk in, but you can picture it. Good times. 10 minutes away, First Street. First Street in Santa Fe. You can look it up. 101 First Street. It's right on the corner of First Street in Santa Fe. There are 2 addresses, but I'll give you 101 East First Street. I think that's it. On 4th Street, I get pulled over by Chips. Mind you, they're in a car, but CHP, which is the highway guys, state police, if you will. And they asked me if I was drinking. I said no. And they're like, yeah. Blah, blah, blah. That was my hiccup. That was my hiccup for the award shows. That hiccup gave me some time to harass Hassan to get into the camera department, which I did. So every slammed door blows the one on the other side of the room open, and you're like, oh, didn't even see that over there. Hi, who's it? Oh, nice. I need that right now. I need that. I used COVID excuse like everyone else did. I've been sitting dogs, which is awesome. Like, I slowed everything way down. Way down. Which has been great. I've been watching dogs. Literally working with DoorDash delivering food, which is crazy. I've got my Emmy nod and I'm like... But nothing was open, so these things made sense. And during COVID, everybody bought or rescued dogs. So, I have been super busy. I turn people down. I have a few key customers, which is great, but I need to get out of that too. I mean, come on. I want to create my own production company. Very small, YouTube stuff. Because we can these days. It's just the luck of the draw. I mean, how many people do you see using their little their earbud microphone? I cringe every time. With this old house, we had to think about OSHA. We had to think about hundreds of millions of viewers that could call us out on a safety issue or something like that, and OSHA would do the same thing. So I overthink everything. I was called by Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints guys down in, which counts because they're workers. Down in Barrington, Rhode Island, they go, dude, you are the hardest working man in television. I'm getting choked up saying it. You are the hardest working man in television. I was. One of course, but this is for this old house. Because I was Johnny on the spot. I drove the truck, drove the trailer, had all the tools, had all the stuff. And I was lighting. And we would change, shots. And I'd have to reset lights. And there's a lot involved. Especially if you shoot every day for 18 hours a day. And then you go home and play girlfriend, boyfriend. That was cool. I was renting an old train house in Weston. And if you're from this area, yeah, Weston. It's awesome. Drove through the back of Lincoln, over to Bedford, Concord, where the offices were, right by Hanscom. We all know what I'm talking about. I felt very right, we'll say. It was a great time. But, as all great times do, it hit the mountain and crumbled to pieces. But that's all right, When I heard that I was the longest running gaffer on the show, I mean, how awesome did that make me feel? I was like, wow, okay. So, I actually did great. And I thought I dropped the proverbial ball. I just realized this is an hour and 14 minutes long, so I'm going to cut it. But I'm trying to figure out, I got my real estate license, and I've worked on this old house for 5 years. There is not much that I don't know about the property and the house structure's on it. And I could say that confidently. Like, I walk through a house and I visually disassemble it. I'm actually thinking about starting my own side project company because in this world of real estate, which we are in, where the people are denying inspections, if you brought me along and didn't say that I was inspecting anything, just said, oh, it's my brother, my cousin, he may take a room, so I figured I'd have him here. I can just walk through the house. I don't need to stop. I can just walk through the house, walk through the basement, because I was also, when I got back from LA, I didn't have any production experience. I was back at Mommy's house, and around the corner from Mommy's house, an old friend from high school had moved his family. Now we got a family and some kids. I've been gone for 8 years. And I kept seeing him, and I was like, what's with the yellow vans? What are they doing? He owned his own plumbing company. So I didn't have a car or anything. And what did I do? I walked up to him and was like, hey, not for nothing, but can I be an assistant or something? He's like, yeah, we'll take you on. So I was a plumber a plumber's assistant. You can't say a plumber unless you're licensed. So a plumber's helper for, I think it was probably a year. Probably a year, I think. And then off and on when we were down with the show. Because the show would go down for the winter, mostly. This old house. And sometimes they would travel, like once they traveled to Hollywood, they didn't bring me along as their gaffer because they could hire a gaffer there for maybe a little bit less, but who cares? He'd have his own home. They wouldn't have to put me up. They wouldn't all this, all that. And he's a Hollywood gaffer. Maybe he's awesome. When they went out that year, they hired someone who had been a Power Ranger. So this guy was jack of all trades too. And they all made fun of him like, you could have just called me. I would have been on the very next flight. And you better believe I would have, because I'm making rate. The minute I show up, I get $400 for the day. The minute I show up, we work 2 hours or 10 hours. Usually we work 10, you earn your money. Then we work 16, usually 16, on average 16, 17 hours. But then once you hit 18, you're awesome, and then you hit 20, you're golden. And that happened a lot. We drove across the country doing a barnstorming episodic, whatever. Again, this old house. I drove the GMC truck with the Ask This Old House trailer behind it with all kinds of props, the camera, tapes, like I had everything. And I billed for the time I was driving. You should have seen those checks. One of them was like $4,500 for a week, and all I was doing was driving. So sometimes we knock it out of the park, and sometimes we foul out. Right now, I'm just sitting on the bench, and coach isn't mad at me, but they're trying to show off the new guy a little bit. See, I'm old, but not too old, and I know too much. I just want to drive. I want to drive across the country, and I want to film it. I want to have live cameras on the Ford Expedition, right, that I'm driving, courtesy of Ford company of, usually it's a certain lot, they say. And Jeremiah will be staying at the Marriott, blah, 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 courtesy of the Marriott hotels, That's all you do. You call these companies, and they absolutely, if you have background, and if you sound like you've actually got a business plan, they'll give you anything. It's commercial consideration. Driving the truck across country for Ford, if it was a real commercial company in production, it would cost them millions. For me, I just want a truck and a gas card. So hopefully I'm getting paid from YouTube. I want to live stream it. I want to drive across. And then I want to have people shoot messages to the live stream and say, hey, I'd love to see blah, blah, blah. Can you drive there? Here's $5,000. That's how YouTube works, right? Right. Yes, we absolutely can. I could be on the road potentially for the rest of my life, which I love to do. I say that because I love driving and I love meeting people and I love just seeing stuff. And along the way, I'd love to be asked to visit certain people's homes. Like, again, they're watching the driving and they're like, hey, I live at such and such in Utah. Again, Utah, whatever. I'd love you to come by. I'd love to show off my house to you because I'm really proud of it. Absolutely. That sounds great. Thank you for the information. But I really want to see the house. Like, it's not, there are people in TV who are like, oh, man, I don't want to do this because this guy's going to be zealous about it. I'm like, yes, that's awesome. I want to meet this guy. This guy is awesome. And he loves his stuff. And I love it too. And now I've got a great friend in Utah for the rest of my life. And he's got a great friend in Boston or wherever I live. I'm thinking I'm going to plant myself in Maine, Calais, because the border is right day. Because coming soon is that day. I don't know, man. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about work. For me, speaking of which, I have to run. I hope this uploads. If you stuck with me this whole time, you are an angel. Because this is long, and, well, I'm just talking at you. And I know it's dark. I kept it dark for a reason, because I'm not trying to be, hey, look at me. I'm trying to just quietly, if you're here, here's a story for you. And I just gave you the basics of how I got there and what I did. There are stories about what happened while I was there, which are insane. Naked girls in fountains, naked girls in the director's bed. I don't know. Meeting all kinds of people. I was up next to Whoopi when she was on the swing when we were down. Just random stuff. But so awesome. Desilu Studios. My name is, if you go up to the catwalks, the 60-foot ups, people have been signing their names since the beginning of the studio. So you see people's names from like 1931 at Desilu Studios. You know, Desilu, Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz, and rallies, every studio. So my name is all over the place, along with people. But Hollywood is my home. Hollywood is my home. I just think of it that way. I always think of Boston as, oh, I'm back here just like visiting and hanging out. Mind you, it's been 7, 17, 10, 3 and 2 is 5, 15 years of a visit. But I love Boston. I absolutely love Boston. And when I got the job on this old house, it was like, dude, this is so kismet. I mean, and then we worked on three different Newton houses, which is almost like they don't do that because it becomes repetitive. But it just so happened that the people that wrote in and had the right money and had the right looking family, not looking, but like, you know, personality of family, we went to. And the first was up on Temple Street, West Newton Square. 5 minutes from my old falling apart house over on Barber Road. And then there was one in Newton Center. Either I'm making the other one up or I'm forgetting it. But yeah, we had, we did Roxbury, and then we did, not Concord, but I just said the other one. Anyway, I'm wasting my time right now. New York, man, I got to work over in Washington Street's Park Slope. You know what I'm trying to say. Brooklyn! Sorry, Brooklyn. I'm tired. That was awesome. It was a brownstone. It was cold. It was really hard. But it was awesome. It was awesome. So, enough on that. I got to run. I hope you all are doing great with your own things. Let me know if I can help with anything. Because I can probably help with some things. Shoot me a message if you watch this. Hit like, I guess. I mean, there's only going to be about 8 people, but if you know how to. So, random thought. On Google Maps, I am a Google contributor. You know, guy saying, "Oh, I've been here and it's great," or "I've been here and don't go here." One of those guys. I now have, because they send you these things. Hey, congratulations, you're a super reviewer. 40,000 views of my handful of videos of places. Handful. I do not have a library of videos of, as my friend would do, chicken fried steak at places. 40,000 views. If I could tie in with those people and just say, hey, thanks so much. If you like this stuff, I have a channel, that's Jeremiah Lee McGillicuddy. Could you come over and just see if you like it? And if you do, hit like. It's not 40,000. It's 80,000. Or it's 40,000. I don't know. But my point being, okay, even if half the people came and subscribed, YouTube would be like, yeah, dude, I'm going to give you like 8 checks at once, okay? Because we can't, the ink would be too much on just one piece of paper. Right? Because it's just an algorithm. It's just numbers. You'd see a little silver YouTube thing behind me right there. This is so backwards. 80, I think it's 80,000 or 40,000. You need 1,000 views, or you used to start thinking about getting promotional, like, ads on your YouTube channel. I don't want a bunch of interruptions, but in the beginning, I might say, hey, this one's from DeWalt Tools. If you see the yellow, you know you're doing all right. Something like that. On to the show. Because I've kept it very mellow. I've tried to. Again, that's why the lights are off. I just wanted to put that out there, ask you some questions, but start or begin to catch you up on where all I've been for the last 2 decades, because it's been extremely interesting. As I always say, I love each and every one of you. I hope to see you soon.